And we're live. Welcome back to the LOOPCast. Happy St. Nicholas's Day to everyone.
That's
so I have
right.
Erika, and I'd also like to say the commitment from Josh Mercer to change flight schedules, to leave meetings, to be here with you, the people. Oh, geez.
You don't even understand the half of it.
Is there a saga to be shared?
Yes,
Oh, it's lovely. I woke up at 4:15 this morning in the swamp of DC, and then I promptly get a message from Delta, that my plane couldn't take off for an extra 50 minutes, which is exactly the amount of time of layover I was going to have in Detroit. That sounds like a problem, right? So I actually used my own Sky Miles, my own personal Sky Miles, to upgrade myself to first class so that I would be in the front of the plane. And as soon as that door closed, I ran out. I mean, I ran as fast as this fat guy can run. And I get out there, and the girl knows I'm running. I'm like, B5 or B4. And she's like, I'm on you. And so she called the gate agent to hold it. And I'm just sprinting and running with luggage in my hand. And I got in before they closed the door. If I didn't make that flight, I'm stuck in Detroit till 4 p.m. So
first,
actually,
Josh,
I would have rented a car at that point. Just
so your mic is a little hot. I don't know if you can adjust it because you legitimately surprised us. I thought this was going to be just a Erika and I episode. I came up with some titles in your absence. I'd like to run them by you.
I mean, an Erika only show, the fans would have liked that, but I don't know about just
that's fair. But I was thinking of maybe we could all in the trust tree come up with some new titles for you in your absence. I mean, the Oracle's already there, of course. So I'm thinking Supreme Leader of the Galactic Podcast Realm. Eternal Captain of the Airwaves.
Yes.
Guiding Star of Microphone Mastery, Josh Mercer. Invincible General of the Talk Show Front. I kind of like that one.
That's kind of military. I like that.
Militaristic.
Aggressive, yeah.
Maybe mine would be the Great Son of Audio Broadcasts.
Wow. Okay.
It's pretty awesome.
Fatherly Figure of the Frequency Spectrum. President of Puns and Propaganda.
I think I'd have to be Vice President of Puns because McCluskey's probably the president of Puns.
That's true. Tinfoil Tom.
Tinfoil Tom's got the puns.
I gotta defer to that.
And look, I'm going to be honest, guys. I
will serve if called.
I wasn't even going to bring it up, but Jan from the chat did. The Lions are the best team in the NFL. No surprise what we saw on Thursday.
Yeah, great game, phenomenal. I didn't get a chance to watch the game though because I went to the gala for the America Principles Project last night.
Oh, that is so cool.
Yeah, Terry Schilling's organization, and they did such a great job, and they brought in Matt Walsh to give a talk, and he was awesome, of course, as you would suspect. I got to see a lot of different people. It was just a lot of fun, and we made Terry Schilling our hero of the month for November because of all the work that he did to make sure that we understand we got to stop what the billion-dollar health industry is doing to trans and mutilate our children. And so he's just been awesome on that. And we're proud to highlight all the work he did. And then I also want to give a shout out to Danny Matta, works for Congressman Congressman McLeod, not McLeod. It's been a long. I'm only on 4 hours sleep, but she was also at the gala, and she's a friend of the program. Said hello, so we like our listeners.
So Josh, I know that was
including those on the Hill.
That was a really effective and smart way to try to deflect me from taunting people about the Lions winning, but it's not going to work. I'd like to specifically taunt Carlos.
There's no taunting. Chat. Yeah. Oh, him. Sure.
Packers fan. One of my favorite moments from the night was I don't know how they got it past the metal detectors, but someone brought in a cheese grater and then the camera panned right on them and was grating cheese live to the nation. How great is that?
That's what I was going to say.
No question. Detroit Lions proved it again that they, you guys limped and you should have lost to the Bears or whatever, but then you won. They lost more than you won. But this win against the Packers, who I despise, the Detroit Lions are the best team in the NFC. There's no question about it.
Yeah, it's going to be a great playoff season.
But
man,
you still got to get through the Bills. You still got to play the Vikes again. So we'll see.
True. People do get annoyed when I talk too much about football, so I'm done. On the heroes in It's the heroes bracket. Are we doing a villains bracket or just a heroes bracket?
No, heroes bracket only.
So heroes bracket, if you guys would like to participate, it's a lot of fun.
It is.
Rosie, if I could get you to throw that chat in the chat to vote on heroes of the year, we have an exciting bracket this year. It's like March Madness, but for people.
We should kind of help people along too, because we get questions about this. Maybe we should emphasize that these are the Catholic heroes and zeros. So Donald Trump is a hero, but we're trying to highlight, because it's a part of our Catholic accountability project. So we're trying to highlight Catholics in public life who are exemplars of what it means to be a Catholic and those who are betraying the faith in some way. So these are heroes and zeros. So, for example, we put Governor Ron DeSantis on the list for a hero of the month because he is Catholic. Mm-hmm. So why did you put Trump on there? It's like, we're not, this is not a presidential, this is not a primary thing. Okay. I voted for Trump the primary anyway. Don't worry about it. That's not what this is about. We're trying to highlight Catholics who stand up for what it means to be a Catholic in public life. And we had to applaud Ron DeSantis and Pete Ricketts for the excellent leadership roles they played in fighting back wicked abortion amendments in their states. So
those hard choices this time, I have to say. I did my bracket last night, and it was tough, some of those choices. So get on over there. And before we get into it, I do just want to shout out, it's my dress down day. So I wore my Catholic University of America merch. Thank you. Who sent this over, Tom? You know the lady's name?
Yes, Professor Tracy.
Yes, Professor Tracy at the business school. So
she's the best.
So it's not just that we like to celebrate great Catholic universities and colleges, in which case, obviously, CUA is a very good school. But in this case, you're an alumni as well.
I am. It is my alma mater. My undergraduate was at Catholic University. Check it out. It's good.
So we have a lot of news to talk about today. And the first it almost doesn't feel real. It feels like a little bit of a plot to a murder mystery. We had a CEO of a major American healthcare company gunned down pretty much in broad daylight, cold blood in New York City. And there's some new details emerging. I know this happened yesterday morning, but now we're getting Wednesday some more information.
Right before we went on the air.
Yeah, Wednesday morning, actually. Wow. Yeah. A lot has gone down. So I'm going to give a few details on the background, and then we can get a little bit more into the reactions. But just to set the stage here. So this is Brian Thompson. Pray for the repose of his soul. He is the CEO of United Health Insurance. It's a part of a conglomerate, but he was the CEO of the United Health portion of it. The shooting took place about 6:45 Eastern time in Manhattan, close to Times Square and Central Park. He was scheduled to speak at an investor conference later that day. Obviously, conference has been canceled after this news. So the suspect is still at large, although the surveillance footage was actually posted now. And there's a few pictures out there of him pulling his mask down for, I think, at Starbucks. I think what I'm seeing is he was potentially even like flirting with the
girl was flirting with him, I think, or something.
Crazy. Yeah. If we find this guy, crazy, that would be the reason. But unfortunately, Brian Thompson, he was shot and died. I don't know if he died at the scene or later, but the assassin in the surveillance footage showed a lot of competence to the point where people are questioning whether or not this was a professional hit. It definitely was premeditated. There's no question about that. He had a silencer on his gun, which is extremely unusual,
hard to get,
especially in New York City, hard to get. Mm-hmm. And it looked like his gun jammed a few times. And it's interesting. There's a lot of gun heads on Twitter debating about why that is, whether it's a suppressor or whatever. The fact of the matter is he calmly recocked the gun 3-4 times, shot him in the back and legs, ended up killing him. So what we do know now on what's new is that they believe the suspect traveled from New York last month on a bus that originated in Atlanta. He fled on a bike. I think at first they thought it was an e-bike, but I think it might just be a bike into a park in Manhattan.
Central Park.
The
park in Manhattan. It's very easy to get lost in.
Technically, that was correct, although that was probably the weirdest way you could possibly say Central Park. And so investigators have now recovered a cell phone from a pedestrian plaza which the shooter fled. Inside a nearby trash can, they found a water bottle and protein bar wrapper, which they say the gunman purchased from that Starbucks. Crime City's lab is saying that they're examining it for DNA and fingerprints. In terms of motivation, they just found the words deny, defend, and depose written on the shell casings from the gun. They intentionally left behind for people to find. These words echo a phrase commonly used by insurance industry critics, basically as a way to not pay claims.
Mm-hmm.
And so Thompson, father of 2 sons in a Minneapolis suburb, he leaves behind a widow and 2 sons. Really tragic. Served as CEO for more than 3 years. Apparently, he had received threats before, but those threats and the details, they haven't been involved with issues involving insurance coverage. Although, as we'll get to more of the reactions on this, people are angry. Very angry, very publicly angry. And a lot of it has to do with health insurance coverage, but there's no evidence at this time that has to do with that, although that's basically implied. So that's where we're at now.
Yeah. Really intense. And now, so there's a manhunt on for him now. Has not been found.
Day 3 hasn't been found.
I think it's obviously tragic and just an indictment on New York City that like something like this happens in broad daylight. It just speaks to the complete lack of law and order, the way the police are deployed, the way they're not deployed. Another strike against the city, to which I am taking 2 of my children on Sunday. Maybe. Yeah. So I think the most interesting thing, though, of course, are the reactions that we're getting. Right. Obviously, the only appropriate human response that no matter what you think of the healthcare industry or even the guys who make the most money off of it, you don't wish death on anyone. Like, I don't want someone to go pop Joe Biden off. I don't want them to go kill Kamala Harris. I would like them to live long lives in which they can repent of their many misdeeds. This is not what healthy people wish upon anyone else, but that's not what we're hearing from the left.
Well, many public death penalty opponents seem pretty comfortable with the death penalty, just depending on who it is.
I guess they just believe in a privatized version of it.
Yeah. Vigilante version.
So I'll share this.
The thing is, you have wackos on the far left and the far right who will say explosive rhetoric and crazy things. It's just that the right are those on the right who would wish death upon others are marginalized and denounced by other conservatives. Whereas the far left whack jobs who are like, oh, haha, yay, celebrating the death, they're not sidelined. They're not denounced. In fact, many of them have been, part of the elites themselves.
So one of them, the most curious, in my opinion, is Taylor Lorenz. A little background on Taylor Lorenz. She was named on the Forbes 40 Under 40 list. I believe she claims responsibility for popularizing the phrase "okay, boomer." She had a bidding war over her from the Atlantic and Washington Post. This is someone that was very, very respected, listened to, had an authority when it came to internet culture. She has since left the Washington Post as a columnist after being in the press briefing room, taking a selfie and calling Biden a war criminal, I think was what got her gone. But she claims she left because she wanted to be independent. She's famous for doxing Chaya Raichik, libs of TikTok. Very interesting character. However, she
does nasty things like you say, like doxing, and then when someone tries to push back at her, she's like, "Oh, I'm the victim." She cries.
So this was interesting. So she immediately says in a tweet, and people wonder why we want these executives dead right after this assassination. And then when everyone kind of was like, I can't believe you just said that out loud. It seems to me you're celebrating the assassination of this. She says, well, people are attempting to manufacture an outrage campaign over a journalist posting about the sentiment surrounding a viral news tweet. However,
which is not
I almost can't believe what she followed this up with. She writes an article after this exchange saying, yes, we, in scare quotes, want insurance executives dead. The subtitle, no, that doesn't mean people should murder them, but if you watched a loved one suffer and die from insurance denial, it's normal to wish the people responsible would suffer the same fate. Does she think that this doesn't mean that she it almost broke my brain.
You shouldn't murder them, but you should wish that someone else would. That's like,
what?
It's a very sick mind going on here. And I think, too, the interesting thing, of course, is Taylor Lorenz and others of her ilk who are making similar statements out there that, like, look, it's totally understandable that they would want to kill, blah, blah, blah. They're the same people who have been supporting things like Obamacare, socialized medicine, healthcare. When they cite this figure of 60,000 Americans died because they didn't have coverage this year, that's the result of the system that the people they've been supporting for the last 15 or 20 years have put into place. That's right. They're directing their ire at the wrong people.
You got what you wanted. You got Obamacare. Trump tried to get it repealed. McCain sided with you and kept it. So it's your system. What are you complaining about? But it's not just that. It's just that, I mean, again, Taylor Lorenz, holding two completely contradictory things at the same time. And, and again, celebrating the death, but pretending that you're not. And then you say it's Trump that's the one that's breaking down the norms.
It always comes back to Trump.
It's
Trump's
what?
responsible for this somehow. Yeah.
The thing is, here's the thing I would like to point out to people. Okay, like we have a healthcare system, right? And we have insurance precisely because at any moment, like something bad could happen to you, and you need a liver transplant or whatever the heck you need, and it's an enormous cost. So insurance is a way of socializing the costs so that you don't like suddenly get a massive bill. I get it. Like you have to pull the risk. But the fact of the matter is, again, as Erika said, you guys got what you wanted. You force more people into the system that were health. Basically, what's going on under Obamacare is healthy people are subsidizing unhealthy people because you can't kick people off. You can't charge them more if they're unhealthy and all this other kind of stuff. So you're going to run into these problems where you're going to have to be like, well, in order to make sure that this thing isn't too expensive, and every year my premiums just keep going north every time. And so, I always joke about this. Life is about choices, right? And there's that Venn diagram, like for moms, I always see it on Twitter. It's really, and Facebook. It's funny. Like, do you want a clean house, happy kids, and your own sanity? There's three things. Pick two because you can't have all three. Well, that's the same thing with this. Like, do you want healthcare that cannot reject anybody, that every sick person, no pre-existing condition, you got to include them. Great. You also want to make it so like it's not ridiculously expensive, like $5,000 premium a month. That would be way too much. It's like, okay. But then you can't say, I also don't want it where these nameless, faceless corporations deny people coverage. It's like, what? I mean, Medicare, Medicaid deny coverage every day. Like everyone has to deny coverage. It's just not. It's not like this idea that like it's a checkbook. Like, oh, these guys make billions of dollars, therefore they can afford everything I want. No, stop. I'm not like a super capitalist, hyper crazy person, but like you set up a system where you want people to make money by trying to provide healthcare coverage to everyone, and then you complain that the price is too high or they deny too much people coverage. These things are in conflict. If you want insurance that covers everybody, then it's going to be super expensive.
Josh, put all that aside. I mean, I'm frustrated with the current state of insurance. I think there's way too many middlemen. I don't think it's great. Do I want the CEO of this person to be murdered? I mean, I think, yeah, the reactions are crazy, but it's kind of the same playbook I see with a lot of different things when it comes to issues is if you can equate people at the top to, quote, murderers, which is what's being done, is they're saying this CEO, this 50-year-old father of two, is somehow a murderer because
all these people get denied coverage and they die.
That does not mean he's a murderer. And again, the rhetoric, it reminds me of the Trump stuff. It's like, well, if you can say he's Hitler and you can say he's the end of the world and he's going to kill everyone, then it actually becomes a thought in someone's mind. Yeah, then maybe we do need to take him out.
This is what drives me so crazy about ideology, though. Like presumably, if I gave, let's say, $200 a month, I could save so many children, let's say in Africa or whatever, right? Like, oh gosh, you just saved, 15, 16, 20 kids. Like, oh, that's awesome. It's like, wait a minute. Do I have an obligation to give every nickel I have to save everyone? Yeah. Like at some point there has to be a principle of like, okay, wait a minute now. Like, sorry. So yeah, murdering CEO. I mean, this is a dark place. I personally think, yeah, like Erika said, why should you be disappointed in the healthcare system we have now? It's your choosing. You Democrats did this all by yourself. Obamacare was done without a single Republican vote. And we were saying this should be better. You shouldn't do it like this. And you ignored us. And, in fact, you lost a Senate seat in Massachusetts after Ted Kennedy died. And you still push forward this garbage. And the fact of the matter is we try to make it better. We try to make it more competitive. And you said no to us every turn. And you said we want to kill people when we try to reform it.
Right.
And so, but I think Obamacare was destined to fail so that a Canadian-style total government socialized medicine, single-payer thing would come afterwards. I think that's kind of the long game they're doing on this. Erika, I know you want to talk about that. These people are rapacious, evil people. No, I mean, socialists are evil people. They really want people to die.
Well, I just wanted to get Erika. Did you have anything you want to say on this before I go on to the next point?
No, I think like just someone in the chat made an interesting point that is worth just noting for the Catholics among us, which is most of us here. They said, well, what about the imprecatory Psalms? So the Psalms, I assume you're referring to, which refer to like, oh Lord, eviscerate my enemies, kill all of my people who come against me. Yeah. So yeah, I wouldn't equate that with Taylor Lorenz. Like, I think that there's a distinction to be made between David asking for the Philistine army to be defeated and Taylor Lorenz, who she later posted the face of a CEO of another company as like a suggestion perhaps for the next assassin. I don't know. I think there's a little bit of a distinction there. Yes, we pray for the defeat of our enemies, but definitely not for the murder of specific individuals who are more or less may or may not be responsible.
So here we go on that point of socialism, Josh. So someone was keeping track of a few things I'd like to show here. One, just to keep track, progressives have celebrated one, vaccine skeptics dying from COVID.
Right, there's that.
Mocking anti-vaxxers' COVID deaths is ghoulish, yes, but maybe necessary. We have Hamas murdering Jews on October 7th. Resistance is justified. Trump assassination attempt. And then the murder of a health insurance CEO. I'd also like to add they also celebrated Justice Scalia's death, Rush Limbaugh's death, the attack on Rand Paul, and then my personal addition would be Andy Bashar basically suggesting that J.D. Vance's children should be raped as kind of a fun fact. I mean, none of this is new, but there's a helpful and the other thing on Taylor Lorenz, she just said that people without masks, breathing without masks, are murdering people. Like that is equated to murder, but actual murder of a CEO is justified. So here's this graph for everyone who's wondering. It's a 4-quadrant graph: authoritarian, economic right, libertarian, and economic left. We have authoritarian economic right. Everything is genocide except actual genocide, which is fine. Everything is slavery except actual slavery, which is fine. Everything is theft except actual theft, which is fine. And then everything is violence except for actual violence, which is fine, which is what I've kind of felt during the COVID period, right? Of like words are violence, thoughts are violence, but then burning down cities is justified and totally fine. So it's kind of hard to
That's where we are. It's a good map.
Yeah. There we go.
Whoa.
So, and then, also on the insurance front too, one, insurance companies deserve to be shot, or CEOs deserve to be shot, but then riots burning down your businesses don't actually affect you because you have insurance. I mean, there's so many different layers to this, but I hope this guy's found. Now that that's a super controversial take. And then someone brought up I think this is actually subtle but important. I don't even know how subtle this is. Someone basically was like, why have no senators talked about this or utilized this as momentum basically to try to get something done on the healthcare front? This is from Ken Klippenstein. Haven't seen a single member of Congress acknowledge the rage seemingly everyone is expressing at the healthcare system. How hard is it to say, I don't condone violence, but people's pain is real? I'd be the first to say, I don't want to see more of this. Probably. This seems like an inopportune time to be giving in to people when people are being shot on the street for their profession.
Well, the thing is, healthcare is a third rail. Trump tried to do it to do that like kind of mini ACA repeal. And of course, McCain knifed it.
Just failed.
I just can't see it happening. The only way to do it is to try to give some sort of tax incentives to grow people to get out of it. It's a thick with weeds. It's going to take a long time to try to undo this.
No doubt on that. Okay, next section we have SCOTUS update. So actually, when we were doing that show, we were mid the oral arguments. Mm-hmm. I had a couple favorites.
Did not disappoint.
It did not disappoint.
Man.
Do we want to go with which Supreme? Roll the dice, Josh. Which Supreme Court Justice would you like to hear from first?
I think Alito did the best.
Yeah.
All right, so I got the Alito clip. Here we go.
A question about the state of medical evidence at the present time. In your petition, you made a sweeping statement, which I will quote. Overwhelming evidence establishes that the appropriate gender-affirming treatment with puberty blockers and hormones directly and substantially improves the physical, psychological well-being of transgender adolescents with gender dysphoria. That was in November 2023. Now, even before then, the Swedish National Board of Health and Welfare wrote the following. They currently assess, quote, that the risks of puberty blockers and gender-affirming treatment are likely to outweigh the expected benefits of these treatments, which is directly contrary to the sweeping statement in your petition. After the filing of your petition, of course, we saw the release of the Cass report in the United Kingdom, which found a complete lack of high-quality evidence showing that the benefits of the treatments in question here outweigh the risks. And so I wonder if you would like to stand by the statement that you made in your petition, or if you think it would now be appropriate to modify that and withdraw the statement that there is overwhelming evidence establishing that these treatments have benefits that greatly outweigh the risks and the dangers.
I, of course, acknowledge, Justice Alito, that there is a lot of debate happening here and abroad about the proper model of delivery of this care and exactly when adolescents should receive it and how to identify the adolescents for whom it would be helpful. But I stand by that there is...
By it.
She stands by it. No, Alito did a great job, and he clearly did his homework on this one, because he was citing the Cass report chapter and verse, which of course is the study that we pointed to on Wednesday discussing this about that the effects of doing so-called gender affirming care and transitioning minors actually longitudinally shows that it does more harm to them than it would had they just waited it out, as it were. Right. So actually suicide ideation increases in kids who undergo this treatment as minors prior to adolescence. And he cites this to them, and he essentially backs her into a corner of having to say that she doesn't accept the Cass report, or she starts pointing to other reports that have happened here in the United States, which again, we went over this on Wednesday, were funded by the big pharma who is financially invested in child gender transmutilation surgeries. So Alito did a fantastic job here of pointing that out. I think the best moment he had, though, was when he got her to admit that gender identity is not an immutable characteristic.
Oh wait, no, hold on.
Oh.
Well, because what Tom had shown was the interaction between Alito and the Solicitor General, which the Solicitor General is the part of the Department of Justice. That's why the Biden administration was arguing, against this good Tennessee law. Mm-hmm. And then the ACLU lawyer, which is the transgender lawyer, that's that
Strangio.
Chase Strangio, yeah.
Chase Strangio. That's where that interplay happened. And so the so-called transgender lawyer gets up there and says, I think that the record shows that the discordance between a person's birth, sex, and gender identity has a strong biological basis and would satisfy an immutability test. Because the whole idea is there's a lot more strength in the law if you can say something is an immutable characteristic.
Well,
for example,
of the Civil Rights Act,
a black person could say, I'm being discriminated against because I'm black, and that's immutable. I can't change that. It's an immutable characteristic.
Right.
And so, do you have that on tape where he says this?
No, I have the one of Ketanji Brown Jackson making that.
Yeah, okay, hold on.
We'll get there. We'll get there. But Alito did this really well. Go ahead, Josh. Yeah, tell the rest of the story.
Alito comes back and basically says, well, okay, so let me get this straight. Does transgender status apply to people who are gender fluid? And the transgender lawyer says yes. Then Alito asks, well, do some individuals change their gender identity? And the transgender lawyer, of course, says yes. So Alito says, so not immutable.
Right. So it's not immutable. Right.
So it's not immutable.
That was the end.
Right into the bear trap.
Well, Clarence Thomas, someone brought it up in the chat too. He had a really sneaky comment here.
Yeah, this was good.
I can share the transcript on this.
I could listen to him all day.
He's the best. Well, he doesn't speak much. He speaks actually the least in oral arguments of all the Supreme Court justices. But he springs another trap of ask the question to the ACLU lawyer, what remedy are you seeking? Strangio, flummoxed by such a seemingly simple question, said an injunction. Justice Thomas then asked, practically, you would get different treatment based on sex. And the trap was laid. Strangio said the plaintiff, a girl who identifies as a boy, would be allowed to get drugs for, quote, a typical male puberty, despite having, quote, birth sex of female. That answer made clear that girls who identify as boys would get a right under the Constitution to testosterone, but boys who identify as boys would not, which is ... sex discrimination.
Beautiful.
I mean, it's just...
laid another trap. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And Ben Domenech had the point that said, Samuel Alito would be considered the greatest living American, if not for the fact that he sits next to the greatest living American. Thomas. I can't help but make this point. Catholic Vote started in 2005, and we, okay, you can blame us for John Roberts, whatever. But George W. Bush got out there, and after the great Justice William Rehnquist died, he's like, okay, I'll have Roberts be the chief, and then I'll pick someone else to fill Senator Day O'Connor's spot, which, thank goodness. He wanted to put Harriet Miers on the Supreme Court. Harriet Miers. So terrible. Catholic Vote was one of like 3 organizations, like day one, we're like, hell no. And we opposed it, withdrawmyers.org or whatever. We campaigned like hell against this. And everyone in the White House, Bush White, was like, you're not loyal, blah, blah, blah. You'll never be anything in this town. And we're like, pound sand. We don't care. And we rallied people against that. We got Alito in there instead of Harriet Miers. Thank the good Lord. He's the one who wrote the Dobbs decision. He's killing it on this. Thank God we have Samuel Alito on the Supreme Court, not Harriet Miers.
God is still blessing America.
So can I please share my favorite part?
Yep.
I like the bad parts. You like the good parts. I like the bad parts. So Ketanji Brown Jackson, here we go.
Being drawn by the statute. That was sort of like the starting point. The question was whether it was discriminatory because it applied to both races and it wasn't necessarily invidious or whatever. But, as I read the statute here, the case here, the court starts off by saying that Virginia is now one of 16 states which prohibit and punish marriages on the basis of racial classifications. And when you look at the structure of that law, it looks in terms of, you can't do something that is inconsistent with your own characteristics. It's sort of the same thing. So it's interesting to me that we now have this different argument, and I wonder whether Virginia could have gotten away with what they did here by just making a classification argument the way that Tennessee is in this case.
Yes, I think that's exactly right, that there is absolutely a parallel between any law that says you can't act inconsistent with a protected characteristic and in all other contexts.
Just in case you missed that, yes, Ketanji Brown Jackson just compared banning medical transitions on minors' genitals to bans on interracial marriage. That is correct. That is what she said.
Yep.
From the woman who doesn't know what a woman is comes interracial marriage is the same as parents being able to chop off their kids.
I'm surprised she even knows what marriage is if she doesn't even know what a woman is.
I know.
And why is she on this? Guys. Why is she even talking to this Supreme Court case? Talking about transgender stuff?
She accused herself.
Yeah, she's not a biologist. What is she doing trying to argue this case?
There were signs, guys.
She and Sotomayor are dumber than a box of hair. I mean, it's just like so worthless. They should both be impeached and just pick some liberal who's not a total flipping idiot. Like, at least, okay, Elena Kagan is dangerous because she's smart. I never underestimate Elena Kagan. She's a brilliant legal mind. But so does Sotomayor and Ketanji. What? Give me a break. She's absolute idiots. And they talk the most. There's the chart that showed all the 9 justices. She talks more than almost all the rest of them combined. My goodness. You just want to poke your ears in because she's
my goodness.
The argument she makes.
Well, I wish I could be.
Josh, my other favorite moment was Sotomayor saying, so Matthew Rice was the Tennessee Solicitor General. He said, how many minors have to have their bodies irreparably harmed for unproven benefits? Sotomayor cut him off and said, every medical treatment has risk, even including aspirin, was a direct quote.
You're like,
I don't know.
Wait a minute.
Taking an aspirin is different than cutting off my genitals.
What? What?
Last time I checked.
I'd rather take a Tylenol than chop off a healthy limb.
It's like behind door number 1, aspirin. Door number 2, cut off your junk. I'm going to say no to that.
That one got me. I was like, yes,
The
risk is exactly the same of mutilating children and taking aspirin. And then also, how could I forget? Where was all this concern for medical treatment risk when it came to mandating that everyone got the COVID vaccine if you wanted to live your life? If you wanted to go on public transportation,
it's a medical
treatment that was completely novel and never tested. So don't get me going on all that.
Angry populist Tom comes out.
Let's just say she missed that argument when all that was coming down the pipe. I don't know where she developed this concern for medical risk all of a sudden. But next part, I think you had this in here, Erika, and people are arguing about the death penalty here in the chat, which is hilarious.
Really?
How did we get here? I appreciate robust argument, and Josh has his thoughts on the death penalty.
There you go.
But be nice. Be nice in the chat. I appreciate debate, but you gotta be nice. Merry Christmas. Pardons for everyone.
Oh boy.
Okay. Pardons for you. Pardons for you. Pardons for you. Everyone gets a pardon.
And you get a pardon. I'm going to channel my inner Oprah. It's going to be awesome.
The thought process is so far for the Biden administration, potentially on the table, pardoning members of the January 6th committee, specifically Adam Schiff, former GOP Representative Liz Cheney from Wyoming.
Oh, yeah. She needs a pardon.
I wonder if that will go all the way back to her time in the Defense Department, maybe. And then, ding, 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 Dr. Anthony Fauci. So this would be a unprecedented blanket pardon of everyone you like within your administration, even if isn't that kind of an admission that you're doing something wrong?
Yeah. So I actually did some historical research on this, and there was a Supreme Court case addressing the issue of pardons, presidential pardons, in 1915. And it established that in United States law, the presidential pardon carries with it, quote, an imputation of guilt and an acceptance of a confession of it. And the decision, I loved the wording. It was so poetic, the way we used to write our Supreme Court decisions. I mean, Clarence Thomas still. It's an act of grace. It is an act of grace. So once again, this is coming from Politico. They had an insider at the White House. And while Joe Biden was taking a nap over in Angola this week,
oh my gosh,
Jill Biden and the staff were beginning to plan the sweeping round of pardons that they're going to give out for Christmas presents. And like you said, the people that you mentioned are on the list. This, can I just say, Democrats have no forward thinking. This is all just power politics.
But the norms, Erika. I thought they were the party of the norms.
The party of the norms. This is just power politics all the way down to the bottom. And they're like, oh my gosh, we need to just cover our rear ends because we're going to be in jail because you deserve it. But we're going to just say, yeah, these guys, they're going to have pardons, like Hunter's pardon, of course. It'll be sweeping. It'll be like, for any and all crimes they may or may not have committed for this period of time.
Right, but you know whose fault this really is, Erika, if you think about it.
Oh,
obviously, it's Trump.
It's Trump's fault.
Oh,
Trump
because
is
if you read,
for this.
I went in and read the New York Times. You got it. You pulled it.
Okay.
You pulled it already. Yeah,
this is
were
so
on the
good.
same page. You and me, Pogo. I was like, gee, I wonder what the New York Times said when they reported on this. It was unbelievable.
It legitimately reads like romance.
This is not reporting. This is
no. Okay,
propaganda.
So we have the New York Times on Trump's pardon versus Biden's pardon. So here we go. We have President Trump doled out clemency to a new group of loyalists on Wednesday, wiping away convictions and sentences as he aggressively employed his power to override courts, juries, and prosecutors to apply his own standard of justice for his allies. Yeah. This was in 2021.
Those are the last-minute Trump ones.
All right. Fast forward. 2024. A dark sky had fallen over Nantucket, Massachusetts on Saturday evening when President Biden left the church along his family after his final Thanksgiving as president.
Oh my gosh.
Inside a borrowed vacation compound earlier that week with its views of the Nantucket harbor, Mr. Biden had met with his wife, Jill Biden, and his son, Hunter Biden, to discuss a decision that had tormented him for months.
Oh my gosh.
The issue, a pardon that would clear Hunter of years of legal trouble, something the president had repeatedly insisted he wouldn't do.
Wait a minute. Are you telling me that the communist newspapers have two different standards? Oh, gosh.
Not
I
only
forgot.
that, but if you start digging into it, the way that they're framing this potential like blanket pardon for all these Biden lackeys is they're framing it as in order to protect the hardworking civil servants of the United States from Trump's, the words were vengeance, revenge, reparations, coming at, like it was completely painted as big bad man. Basically, Genghis Khan is coming with his horde to strike down with his scimitar all of these poor civil servants like Adam Schiff. And they have to be protected from this at all costs. But basically, the precedent it's setting is for anyone who comes after this, if you work for the president of the United States and he's the kind of guy who's going to sign pardons, you can do whatever the heck you want. Anything.
I just love this. Basically, Democrats say, we're pretty sure Trump's going to do this, so we're just going to do it ahead of him.
Right.
The guy, because he smashes every norm, so we'll just do it ahead of him.
We'll just smash
like,
him first.
This is crazy to me. There's this, now the Democrats are, have you heard this? The Democrats are now floating this idea of aggressive federalism. They're going to promote aggressive federalism and put issues back down to the states. And I'm like, wait, what?
Hey, Josh,
what?
is aggressive federalism in the room with you right now?
Yeah, right. This is such baloney. Like, these people are so full of garbage. They're so full of baloney. It's like, so funny. Oh, suddenly you're James Madison and you love federalism? Yes. Oh, yes, only because Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the White House. Oh, I mean, that's like, wait a minute. I should go to like Ron Wyden, the Democratic senator from Oregon. Hey, do you still want to push through that bill that would increase the size of the Supreme Court to 15? You know, go to AOC. Hey, you really wanted to get rid of that filibuster. Should we do that right now? What say you? Huh? Oh, no? Oh, not so interested in that, huh?
Wait, Josh.
Crazy.
How that works. Can the golden son of the airwaves, what was it again? Great son of audio broadcast,
Great
deliver
son
the
of
line?
audio.
Can I what?
Deliver the
Say
line.
the line.
Say the line.
Listen, folks, I got to tell you something about these Democrats. In the New York Times, the editorial page, it's almost like they're lying.
Thank you. I needed that on this Friday.
Yes.
Oof.
Friday is back.
Needed that one. Friday's back.
FAQ Friday is back.
All right. So speaking of FAQ Friday, so this actually corresponds with an email I received, and I saw it kind of buzzing in the loop too, in a way that kind of surprised me. So I figured we could give our 2 cents, and I'm sure Josh has a very muted, understated take on this. So Catholic Vote, we put out an article. The Doge boys pulled up to the White House, and they had their first meeting with everyone. And then in this shocking report, Senator Joni Ernst, who actually is kind of getting some flack right now for...
She's terrible.
Yeah, for being a rhino and not supporting Hegseth. But...
Well, being pro-trans, apparently?
Yeah, no, not great.
What the heck?
So,
Iowa? Come on, people.
I'm going to give you some basic findings from this report on government employees, okay? The average building occupancy at a federal building is 12%. Okay? 6% of federal employees show up to work in person daily. And actually, if you don't count...
Wait. If you adjust for the custodial and janitorial staff, it's actually closer to 1%.
Yes. Pretty dang close to 1%.
I could tell that Tom wanted to deliver that line, Erika, so I heard that.
I jumped in on
Wow,
it.
Josh, great discipline there, not interrupting.
Thanks, Mercy.
Erika, you have permission to interrupt me anytime you want. I do way too much to do.
I will take special treatment.
Leasing and building maintenance, $15.7 billion annually. There are 7,697 vacant buildings and 2,265 that are somewhat empty, costing the government $15 million. And then the report showed 23% to 68% are boosting their income by receiving incorrect locality pay. So Doge is coming to town. One of their main promises is that they're going to start cutting government waste. One thing that has been floated is by mandating all federal employees return to the office like the rest of us. Now, I saw the pushback on this, and I got an email about it. An interesting story I think we should address here. She starts off by saying that she likes everything we say, but she especially likes what Erika has to say, which is not an unusual email. But there's something I'd like to push back on a little. There is a lot of talk from Doge about federal employees returning to in-person work. After COVID, remote work became very popular for everyone who didn't want to be there in person. Many people remain remote, or at least hybrid. I'm wondering why there is such a push to get federal employees back to full in-person work, and it doesn't seem to be happening for the rest of the working population. What makes us believe that all federal employees are not capable or trustworthy enough to have a remote work option? Full disclosure, I share that my husband is a Fed. He began in 2019 fully remote, contract employee. He has since been hired. Because of COVID era remote work options, we did not have to move back to DC. He drives 4+ hours to DC every 2 weeks to put in his in-office time. When he's there, he's commonly nearly alone at the office, simply checking the box to say that he has to put in his time. Many of his coworkers, even the ones who live close to the office, follow the same 2 days per pay period requirement and work from home the rest of the time. No one wants to drive in DC traffic if they don't have to, and honestly gives them all more time to work, and many of them probably put in more time than if they were actually driving to the office. We will not, all caps, be moving to DC if this requirement changes. I promise you that. There are other options such as local reporting office, but other options.
That's the rub. That's why.
Yeah. The whole thing. Look, gosh, wait. I got to finish. But other option is to find a job that pays better, doesn't require us to live in an overpriced, crime-infested city. I may be biased, but my husband, like many others, is a good employee and enjoys providing an important service to the country. He is constantly trying to find ways to be more efficient, provide more service. It would be a shame if the good employees who are smart enough not to live in DC or other big cities would be given that ultimatum. I agree money should not be wasted on maintaining or leasing space for employees who never come to the office. There are 2 ways to handle that problem. Make the workers come in or unload or repurpose the real estate. Yes, this causes a problem of its own, but there must surely be more options to fix that problem too. Love to know what you think. Josh, clearly you have thoughts.
Well, first of all, I'd like them send me that person's email. Maybe we'll put that guy in charge of the agency.
Yeah.
That he works at. The ostensive reason why Doge wants to require more people to work, in person rather than remote is precisely the reason she explained here is that if you require people to work remote, they're just going to quit. Yeah, we're trying to get a ton of federal employees to quit. That's the whole point. We have way too many. And so that's the one way they thought of doing it. Maybe it's not the better way, actually. Maybe the better way to do it is just to simply kind of what Vivek had initially said, that every federal employee that has an even number, social security number ends in an even number, you're fired. Like literally just got to cut 50%. And that's the way you got to do it. And it sounds irrational because it's so random, but it's precisely because it's random means you're not making people political targets. And someone can't say, well, you just did that because you think I'm a Democrat. It's like, no, I didn't. Literally, you were given that number at birth. You're assigned to that birth. So no, that's not why we're doing it. But I do think I'm actually okay with federal government employees working remote so long as there's not a security issue, if they've got that figured out. It just tells me if like the Department of Transportation building or let's say HHS building, I'll use that one. It's actually pretty darn close. It's like 2 blocks from Capitol.
Right.
And if you only have like 6% of the people working there, then sell the damn building.
Yeah.
Sell it to anyone who agrees to blow it up to the ground because it's a brutalist piece of garbage. And then and let someone build something nice there, and then you can start consolidating these. Have like one building where all the workers come in because you don't need a massive building if no one ever comes in the damn building. Right. We could save ourselves some money here, people. And
we could save ourselves billions of dollars.
I actually agree with what this lady's saying. Move some of these agencies out of DC. Now, of course, there's statutory problems. You can't do it. Trump was able to move the Bureau of Land Management, the only good BLM there is, out of Washington, D.C. during his first term. And I think he put it in Grand Junction, Colorado. He didn't need authority from Congress. And then as soon as Biden got in, his Interior Secretary moved it back. So thanks a lot. But that was what was nice about it. You got all these federales that were working for that agency that are, a bunch of living in D.C. and they know what's right for the, western half of the United States. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, why don't we actually have people who live in Colorado be there? So another little ingenious idea that's worth anyone who wants it. So the Department of Health and Human Services will still be located in D.C., like a tiny little office like that can hold like 10 people, and then the other satellite office is actually bigger and put it somewhere like in Ohio. Mm-hmm.
The guiding star of microphone mastery has spoken.
I have more ideas. I'm ready.
Erika, what do you think?
I was just going to say everything yes to everything she said. I think that the move toward remote work, when it is properly vetted and that there's demonstrable productivity. I mean, I work remotely. We couldn't live the lifestyle that we live if I couldn't work remotely, and Todd wasn't able to work remotely when needed. I mean, this is really, it's a great lifestyle for families, but
I know. I totally agree with that.
Right. But what we're seeing in the federal report here is that we've got people who have been not logging in at all, who've been working at any given time. I think in any given day in a federal agency, only 30% of the people are actually working their contracted hours, and they're still pulling paychecks. So I would say one of the first things to do is to have an audit of all the employees, and anyone who has defrauded the taxpayers in that manner should just be fired. Like they should just be gone. So yeah, I think if we can't do the Social Security number thing, anyone who's defrauded the taxpayers, goodbye. Like no questions asked. You stole, and that's the end of it. So,
some breaking news for people listening to it. The jurors informed the judge in New York that they are deadlocked in the Daniel Penny manslaughter trial.
Mistrial?
Who knows? But that's that. I mean, of course, we would love for them to say he was completely, innocent or not guilty. But they certainly don't have. They don't have enough people. There's some people on this jury who obviously think this guy is evil instead of being a hero.
That's great news.
I'll take it.
News.
But it's so common sense to me. It's like, yeah, you take the subway too. Do you want wackos? Oh my gosh, this is going to be a Twilight Zone, but I'll throw it out here. The father of Daniel Penny, or the father of
what a piece of crap,
is now suing Daniel Penny.
Yeah,
I can't believe he has the decency. He doesn't have the shame to not show his face in public. His son's been roaming the street homeless, and he's done nothing to help him out. And now he's popping up after he died to go make some cash,
money ticket,
off of trying to sue this hero. Like you should, like, it's just, as a man,
shameful.
It's unbelievable. A man and a father. Mm-hmm. I cannot believe you would even feel comfortable showing yourself in public, knowing you've allowed your son to be homeless and just pop up to get a bag. Crazy. So, but I'd like to make a point on the remote work dealio as well. Now, I do understand that there's good employees in the government. They're not all bad. To Josh's point on there being too many employees, I completely agree. And remote work is tricky, but it's funny now people are bringing this up as if like DC should get preferential treatment than any other private business in the country, which is kind of the point of Doge. It's like, we want the government, if anything, they should operate on a higher standard because they're using taxpayer money.
Because they serve the public, right.
And Josh brings this point up all the time. But when a company makes a decision about how they would like to execute their work, to provide their product, to make a profit, to pay their employees, they need to make a decision about where they want to have their office, how much office space they should have that's reasonable for their budget, and whether or not they should have a remote work program. And why should we expect DC to not make the same adjustments every other business has made? If DC is too expensive, too dangerous, people aren't showing up, great. All right, move the Department of the Interior to Montana, somewhere that's more affordable, and then you can have an office there for people. If clearly we don't have reliable remote employees, or enough reliable, or just in general reliable, we need to start firing people, to Erika's point. So
that's going to happen. Schedule F, baby. Let's go.
Schedule F's going to happen. So like, I'm sympathetic, of course, to like Mindy, your husband, who sounds like, I believe you. I'm sure he's a great employee. I'm sure he really wants to work hard. But if he does not want to go back to DC, I think the solution is close the office, save the money. Whoever's running the department should make decisions about remote work. If it's not doing well, if it's not happening, I think everyone personally knows a government employee that basically BS's, that doesn't work. If we could just fire all those people and then set up, what bothers me too about all these federal agencies in DC, of course, Josh brought up the HHS building, but like, and the problem with the FBI building is everyone hangs out in those areas because they're looking for their next job. No one actually is there. Like, for example, Department of the Interior. If you really cared about, or agriculture, if you cared about agriculture so much, your life's passion was agriculture,
farmers, right?
Why the heck are you not in Kansas? Like, why are you not where we're actually doing farming?
On the agriculture, I get you. But like, as someone who works at the Department of Health and Human Services, they don't hop to like Department of Transportation. They don't go to FBI or whatever. They usually they get their ticket in and then they stay there forever because they know it's a cushy job. And we're not talking about this Mindy's husband is the exception that proves the rule. Like most of these employees, again, it's not like in the private sector where you work hard till the whistle blows. In the government sector, too often what happens is you get a certain amount of work and then you stretch it to fill the time.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
And I brought I mentioned that once before about my mother-in-law. She was working for the Social Security Administration, and they're like, "Here you go. Here's your stack of stuff." She burrows through that like in an hour and a half, and she gets done with it. It was supposed to last 4 hours. She's like, "Oh, cool. I can help." Rolls up her sleeves, comes up to someone else. "Hey, can I help you?" And they're like, "What? And then she had to talk to the manager.
I'm sure she got in trouble, right? Because you're making everyone else look bad.
Don't ever do that again. Take as much time as allocated, Yep. So that's why you're like, so that's why federal employees look at porn while they're on the job and all that stuff.
Or have orgies. The 12-person orgy at the Department of Veterans. Oh my gosh.
And they're mad about Pete Hegseth having a beer on St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, that's just unconscionable.
We don't even have time.
I think he's turned that around. I think Hegseth might pull it off.
I'm almost, you know what's funny? At first I was kind of like, I don't know about this one. The more they criticize this dude over total BS makes me want him even more.
I know.
I'm like, the Wall Street Journal expose, I'm not exaggerating. There was a whole section where they're like, oh my gosh, drinking problem. St. Patrick's Day event at Fox, he had a beer at 10 a.m. and it was warm. It wasn't cold. And we think he's an alcoholic. What? I'm like, yeah, welcome to Catholicism, buddy. That was one. And the other one was
New York.
He drank whiskey before he did a production with other veterans. And then the other one I saw was, yeah, Pete Hegseth has a Bronze Star. That's not that special. Look at all these other people who have Bronze Stars. What are we talking about, guys? I'm like, he's being attacked for the dumbest stuff. I'm like, I want him to get in now. I'm full speed ahead on Pete Hegseth.
It's obvious to me that the defense industry, all these contractors are making billions of dollars off of the Department of Defense and all the wars that we do over. Don't like this guy. And you know what?
For
that reason alone, sounds like he's the right guy for the job.
Yep. Target. Over the target.
All right. How much time do we have?
Hey, I could do another 10.
Not much. Come on.
Not much. Go. Yeah,
well, Josh, you were up at like 4:15.
We don't want to be like the feds. We want to get work done today. I don't know.
That's right.
This is work.
This is work.
As fun as this is, imagine America. That. This is work. Okay. So yeah. Okay. We'll go Twilight Zone then. I have other stuff, but maybe we'll push it to next week.
All right. Zone. Am I up first? I am. Well, because we didn't think Josh would be here. Josh, You're not even in.
All right. I already know. Yeah.
All right. Here I go. Airwaves. Well, what's going on in DC besides not working? Well, the outgoing Biden administration is throwing gold bars off the Titanic, as one employee said. So Project Veritas goes in and they to some cocktail party in DC, and they find this guy from the EPA, and we just go ahead and roll the tape.
Sounds good.
But now it's just how to get the money out as fast as possible before they come in and stop it. It truly feels like we're on the Titanic and we're throwing gold bars off the top.
Are we getting in trouble for this music?
Oh no, are we?
Yeah, you might just have to describe it.
He goes on and he says, "This was always an insurance policy against Trump winning." He's talking about the money that they hold on to in the EPA, Environmental Protection. He says, "The goal is to get the money out as fast as possible before the Trump administration, come in. It's like we're on the Titanic. We're throwing gold bars off the edge." And then the reporter is like, "Oh my gosh, that's amazing!" And he's pretending to be really gay, but anyway, he's like,
classic.
He goes, "And who's the money going to?" And he's like, "Oh, all the climate change guys. If you work in climate change, if you're in the green energy." And he's like, "Have you heard of the Inflation Reduction Act?" And the reporter goes, "Oh my gosh, yes." And the guy goes, "Well, we're just giving money to anyone who's listed in the, we just said all this money. It's $1 million to you, $5 million to you, billions of dollars. We just got to get rid of it before Trump comes in." I mean, this is what we're talking about, guys. This is the deep state. This man's face you see on there, he was never elected by anybody. None of us asked him to deal with our tax dollars that we send in assiduously every April. He's just throwing it off the Titanic and laughing about it like it's a party joke.
You think he shows up in person?
Oh, no. He does not look like custodial staff to me.
All right. I see you had one more, Erika.
An extra one? I sure did. Yeah, no, I'm going to skip this for now. I'm not quite ready. But
sounds good.
Josh threw me off with his appearance here.
Yeah, Josh, did you in all your free time find a Twilight Zone, or what's up?
Well, there's so much to talk about. I mean, my friend Kyle Seraphin just posted Senator Joni Ernst, a clip from her back in 2020 talking about how we all need to learn from George Floyd. So that's why I don't want to take advice from a total rhino with regards to the nomination of Hegseth. So Thank you very much. I also want to mention that San Francisco is going through, again, you have the situation where cities are going to deal with having to contract because we're having a baby bust. We're not having enough children, and certainly San Francisco is going to have less children. Hello. So San Francisco is needing to close some of their schools amidst a budget shortfall. And so how do they decide which schools to shut down? They're using a DEI formula, which, of course, is penalizing high-achieving schools with large number of Asian students. So if you want to see how the Asian community has already shifted right in the last presidential election, they're going to keep shifting more and more.
Wait, can you expound on that? What do you mean punish? So are they closing?
Because the ones that they're going to target and shut down are these, meritocracy, high schools, these magnet schools where the brightest kids go to. That they're putting them on the chopping block first, because if you're a Democrat, on the city council or school board or whatever it is in San Francisco, forget these smart Asians. Screw them.
They're advantaged. Yeah, they're privileged.
Exactly.
We need to get rid of their schools. It's just like they tried to do in Chicago, or they're doing in Chicago, actually.
And in Virginia, which is why Glenn Youngkin won.
And in Virginia, the first schools they're going to close and consolidate are the charter schools where kids go to actually learn things like math. But that's racist, so can't have that. Can't have math. Can't have nice.
But there's
things.
so much news going on. I'm sure, Tom, are you going to mention about how Tuberville was going after the FDA guy? Saying because apparently they haven't investigated whether or not Red 40, is it safe for kids? They haven't studied that in over a decade.
I'm glad that when you thought of Red Dye 40, you thought of me, which is
hey, bro, I'm Maha.
Maha.
If I had been more Maha 10, 15 years ago, I wouldn't have been so out of breath when I got to the airport terminal on time.
Josh, you moved to Carmel. We're gonna be ripping Loopcast workouts pre-episode. It's gonna be sick. We'll see. We're gonna get so jacked. Josh, I'm gonna get you so jacked. Okay, mine actually no. So I had the Daniel Penny. I teased it in the title. Maybe you know what? I'm gonna start with the other one before I talk about my Spotify rap, which I'm not super proud of. The Call Her Daddy interview has been the gift that's kept on giving for Kamala Harris. Actually, I saw New York Times, or it was New York Times or WAPO, they're profiling young voters, undecided voters before, and one of them actually said the Call Her Daddy interview was the reason I didn't vote for Kamala Harris, which was like, okay, that's interesting. But there was all this talk about she spent all this money.
Actually cost her votes.
She spent $1 billion and then still ended up in debt. And one of the things that came out of the report was she spent $100,000 on this set for the Call Her Daddy interview. And they just talked to the host of Call Her Daddy, and listen to her response here. Hilarious.
There's a little bit of controversy about that podcast because you did. Do you know about this?
No, what?
Because in D.C., this interview happened in D.C.
Yeah.
In a hotel.
Yeah, not in a hotel. It was like a random house.
It was like random house. But apparently, you can tell me, they spent, meaning the Harris campaign spent like $100,000.
I did see that.
You know about this?
It's hilarious.
To build the studio, to make it look like it was the studio that you used in L.A.
My studio that is gorgeous in Los Angeles doesn't even cost six figures. So I don't know how cardboard walls could cost six figures, but.
But do you think they did that? I mean, you saw it.
Absolutely not. With love to them. Oh my God, it was gorgeous, but it wasn't that nice. It wasn't like gorgeous marble. No, that was not six figures.
Yeah, so anyone curious what it actually does look like? Thanks for the share, Erika.
Yeah. You just wonder if, again, it was one of those things where they paid for the studio $100,000 when it only cost actually like $10,000 to put it up, but it was a way of, filtering money. This whole thing is money laundering. There's no possible way. It's the same way that
studio.
That's the OG.
That's the normal one in LA.
Here's the replicate. $100,000. It
doesn't even look like the other one. Oh, come on.
This is money. The whole thing was money laundering.
Money laundering. Exactly. It's we'll pay you $100,000 if you interview us on your platform.
Totally. And then
again, it's just like, why would someone pay $100,000 for a banana duct taped to a piece of to the wall as artwork? It's money laundering, people. That's what it is. It's like, why do all these rhino senators who love war so much care so much about Hegseth's, scandals? It's because they love war. They love the defense industry. That's why. They don't give a crap. Give me a break.
Really, I just cannot get over how funny it is that all of a sudden the DC media apparatus has become evangelical, sober.
Oh, isn't it nice? We have a United States Senate that is a paragon of sexual morality now. I love it. This is great.
You're going to be calling prohibition. Bring back prohibition.
Come on.
Drinking.
So, I got to level with everyone. I got this on my Spotify Wrapped for the people who don't know. Because
what are you talking about with the Spotify?
That's what I mean. I knew I'd have to explain. So Josh has a Pandora free version with commercials guy.
My friends are going to make fun of me for that. I know.
Spotify is my, platform of choice to listen to podcasts and music and stuff. And so Spotify Wrapped is at the end of the year. They tell you what your favorite music was, what podcasts you listen to the most, what percentage you are of fans in those podcasts, whatever.
Let's see it, Pogo.
It is kind of funny because it is literally your data and everyone gets excited about seeing it. And it's like, oh my gosh, that is so me. It's like, yeah, it's literally data, which doesn't bode well for this. I got my month of May was Pink Pilates Princess Roller Skating Pop Season.
Pogo, do you need to tell us something?
What do I do with this information?
What does it mean?
Can someone like Daniel interpret this dream? I don't. I mean, yes.
Did you log on as Chase Sturgio or something?
I don't know. I said maybe my wife took my phone. I think I just got to face the music here.
I don't think
Pink
your wife.
Pilates Princess Roller Skating Pop Season?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
I don't know.
What were you listening to in May? Does it give you more data?
I don't know.
Here.
I'm going to need to see the man card.
I'm not dropping my playlist. I'm not doing it. However, I also kind of selfishly brought up Spotify Wrapped. Another time to be grateful. Many people joined the Loopcast over the past year. So we got a nice report of our growth. We got a report of our fans. And so if you guys have your Spotify Wrapped and you want to share it, we have an Instagram account, Loopcast. Instagram account if you guys want to share it to us on story, whatever. Appreciate that. If you want to bring people in to the Loopcast clan, especially on Spotify, that's cool. We also stream live. Well, actually, no, not live. We have video on Spotify now, which is kind of cool. They're making some cool updates over there. Nice. And you can leave comments, and I do read them. So a new comment section has dropped to Spotify.
He's there. He's watching.
So yeah, we got. All right, I'm already getting chatter in the chat about my Pink Princess Pop Pilates roller skating season. So
there's a reason.
I still want to see the granular data.
For the real OGs, they know Shortsgate as well. For I believe that was the RNC debate. I made the mistake of wearing shorts at a live stream. If you are a sick individual and you want to go find it, I think it was the RNC live stream that we did, and I can never wear shorts again on a live stream.
Why are you advertising that?
It's good content.
I know my wife brings it up every time she thinks of you. So
thank you. I appreciate it.
And not in a good way, bro.
And now she can bring up my pink.
Don't go there.
All right. Well, Friday episode concluded. Josh, your commitment to the program.
Yes, Josh.
Just a huge thank you to Josh. What would we do without you?
I do have to take a nap at some point today.
Yeah, long one.
Go to it.
So, on the show, we will be back on Monday, but if you want to help us out, join the Champions Club, catholicvote.org/champions. Best way to support us, leave reviews, and you can leave comments now on Spotify, which is kind of cool, so you can go ahead over there.
I'm just laughing, though, because Ryan Gerdusky was following this show just to find out what your Spotify rap is, and then he's going to see this, and he's, no, I don't know.
So, and I'd also like to say I got data on, so people that listen to us on Spotify, what else they listen to. So the top other one was Joe Rogan, which is kind of like ice cream.
Not a shock, right?
Okay, Joe Rogan. The other one was What in the Dang Heck?
Yeah, my ladies. That's my ladies.
The third one, I think, was the Megyn Kelly show. So if we think about this podcast, then that kind of makes me like Joe Rogan, Erika kind of like What in the Dang Heck, and then Josh, you're kind of our Megyn Kelly.
Yeah.
I think she's better looking than me.
Probably, yeah.
But, she rants though.
Yeah. New title for Josh, Megyn Kelly. Okay. Oh, we got someone talking Shorts are immodest except knee length for males. All right, True Catholic.
All right, that is a whole.
You may have drawn the line. You argued about death penalty the whole episode. Shorts is where you draw the line. Okay, short shorts are back. Think Larry Bird. I need to end this episode. Have a great weekend, guys. I'll see you guys on Monday.